Recently in this channel, I talked about the first round of GT World Challenge Europe with the Endurance Series, the Paul Ricard 6 Hours. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the first round of the Sprint Series, the two races that we had at Brands Hatch. Firstly, it was essentially two distinctly different races, despite the fact that temperatures didn't change too much. The impact of having two separate qualifying sessions, one setting the grid for each race, had a drastic impact around a track like Brands Hatch. And you can tell that by the fact that the winners of Race 1, Vincent Abro and Alessio Rivera, were pretty much nowhere in Race 2. Likewise, whilst in Race 1 the Race 2 winners performed slightly better than the Race 1 winners did in Race 2, the likes of Lucas Auer and Mara Engel didn't have the same level of performance in Race 2 compared to Race 1. In fact, the most consistent lineup across the two races were mostly affected in some way by what happened in the pit lane. And that was the Emil Frey Ferrari for the Verstappen.com racing drivers of Chris Lullum and Thierry Vermeulen. Now, I might be slightly biased by singing their praises. It's not a British bias thing, it's not being a Max Verstappen fan. It's that I've raced against both of these drivers in some way, shape or form in the past, and I have personally interacted with the likes of Lullum through different sim racing communities that we overlap in. That might be actually some kind of British bias because, you know, both of us are British, both of us run around in British motorsport, sim racing, esports servers. But they're both the real deal. I mean, we saw that in the Aston Martin, Paul Rick. But I think we're seeing it again here with the Ferrari. And I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy, you know, that Verstappen is looking to go into Red Bull or somehow, because they're with Emil Frey in the Sprint Series, going to Ferrari. But it's cool to see the F1 champion promoting other people in the world of racing. Now, he's not the only F1 champion to have done this. The previous champions before him, in the likes of Sir Lewis Hamilton or Sebastian Vettel, have done something very similar. But I would say that Verstappen's efforts are perhaps the most visible. Maybe that's because he takes the celebrity status of someone like Hamilton to the next level with his sim racing status and his work through Redline. Or maybe it's because that's the area that he's more interested in. Either way, it's a show of what I've been asking for years as a fan of F1, from F1 drivers, which is promoting the sport and promoting motorsports and taking this wider, more ambassadorial role and taking it to this kind of level. It's excellent. At the same time, whilst I do love Brands Hatch, it's a wonderful circuit, a wonderful venue, I do wonder the impact of a location like Brands Hatch for a series like GT World Challenge Europe. Because Brands Hatch, I think the best F1 comparison term could be something like the Hungaroring. I mean, the Hungaroring has previously been a GT World Challenge Europe sprint round, I believe. It's a great driver's track, and it has all of these different challenges. And it has an almost kind of Monaco without the barriers feel to it. Has a lot of elevation changes, has a lot of challenging profiles and corners, but for GT3 cars in the size that they are, it doesn't produce the best racing. I would argue the best racing that we get at Brands Hatch at the moment is still tin tops, but it's more like the touring cars. The BTCCs has always been fantastic there. It's been a reason why historically they, for a long time, opened and closed the season at Brands Hatch. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's great to have a British round. I can't really think of many places that we've yet to, because Silverstone caters more to endurance. And it would make it, I think, the longest circuit on the calendar. At least in terms of lap time. I'm not too sure off the top of my head how Manicure lines up. But it is also part of the profile of GT World Challenge Europe. I mean, the next round is at Zandvoort. And you don't see me turning around and saying, well, actually, they should go to Assen because there's less constraints in terms of facilities. I love Brands Hatch, and it's great to see it there. However, whilst I am a massive fan of GT World Challenge Europe, and I do think the GT3 racing is very much alive and well, despite a lot more saturation in recent years, with the likes of DTM, for example, switching across to a GT3 formula, it is surprising that there were lots of speculated entries to this round that didn't show up. Now, if all of them did show up, there wouldn't be the space at Brands Hatch. But as somebody who, if you're familiar with me and my content, I've been tracking every entry to every race that I've watched so far this season. There was something like 15 entries that didn't surface for the first sprint round. Now, some of them would be only at select rounds, some of them may have been double dutying, some of them, for example, may have been preparing to race in America this weekend, or in Belgium. But it was a shame, because 15 different entries, I mean, if we had all of them, Brands Hatch wouldn't necessarily be able to accommodate for them. Brands Hatch can be packed at the best of times, let alone if you had, 40 GT3 cars trying to get through. It would mean that the likes of Emil Frey or Santalok, for example, or WRT, may only get one pit box for multiple cars. It's almost impossible scenario. But it is a shame that we don't get 40 plus car fields. I guess the Endurance Series is the one you want to go to if you want to try and find more drivers and more cars. Anyway, so those are my thoughts. Let me know yours, as always, in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.